Hello and welcome to an amazing podcast. This is D and Modi, and we are talking about God of High School episode 10. And oh boy, how'd you feel about it?
Um, Pretty much just what you just said. I like the episode, but there is just so much going. It felt like two episodes, honestly.
Okay, so I feel like this episode is the absolute apex of everything I have wrong with God of High School. And when I was have you ever seen those AMVs on YouTube where it's just like instead of just one show, it's like a whole collection of shows? It felt
Yeah.
like watching one of those. Like when I was watching that episode, I couldn't tell if I was watching like Dragon Ball Z, Hajime no Ippo, Naruto, Black Clover, etc., etc. It literally felt like a montage of four separate shows. Not
Yeah.
even in like style, animation, editing, just story in general. So
Mainly it's the story that's just the way it's being paced is just so weird. It's so weird. And actually, when I think about it, so last week I went to the webtoon for God of High School, and I didn't read that far into it. I just like read like I don't know like the first half of the first chapter, and it was already pretty different from the anime. Like in terms of stuff like exposition, a lot more stuff was explained in that first half of the first chapter. Like all the stuff that was explained in that first half of the first chapter was probably explained throughout like the first two episodes of the anime or something like that. So I didn't get as far as to see at what point they explained Cherryuk, but just from the way it was being done in the webtoon, it seemed like it probably had a better handling on like exposition than the anime does.
okay, that makes a lot of sense. So basically, it's Tokyo Ghoul anime level writing and One Punch Man anime level animation.
Yes, and that's a very interesting combination. It's like I don't know how to feel about it. you know?
So, also in this episode, we finally got a explanation for who Nox is, and oh boy. Every single episode of this raises every single episode raises more and more questions for how this world works. Alright, so let's break it down. Nox is a cult that worships a singular god and refuses to accept the existence of other gods. Therefore, they hunt down other Cherryuk users, while also being Cherryuk users. So, despite being a part of a cult that refuses to accept the existence of other gods, they are literally using power borrowed from other gods. Furthermore, why are these other gods letting humans who reject their very existence use their powers? Like, it would have made so much more sense, and this has to have been explained way better in the webtoon. But it would have made more sense if they all just shared, like, one universal power borrowed from that same, like, singular god. Or if they were just, like, anti-Cherryuk users or something. Because their entire organization is a direct contradiction of everything they believe in.
I feel like it's pretty. Sorry, I feel like it's pretty. I kind of get it. So the way I see it is, they have their god, right? And with their god, they're able to use Cherryuk, and I'm assuming that one single god can have many different Cherryuk powers associated with it. So what I'm thinking is that's how it works. And so they're like our god is the coolest, all the other ones suck, and not only we're gonna kill the people who use the powers of the other gods, but are also going to kill the other gods. So I can understand like the mechanics of like what they're doing makes sense, but the reason for it just seems like just pointless. It's like how do you not acknowledge the existence of the other gods if it's so clear that yours exists and it's so clear that they also exist? Like, it doesn't make sense. No, although maybe that's something that'll be explained later on.
I mean, like, if they set it up where something like they instead of like borrowing the power, they actively enslave and force and like steal their power, that would make a lot more sense, and that would have been really interesting because it's a direct contrast to like, oh yeah, you're working together with your like Cheryuk god to like fight as one, but instead they're just like, yeah, we steal their powers and enslave them kind of thing. But to counter that, we also see that like the other Cheryuk users, they all have very specific gods they have like contracts with. So it's like that's again that like mucks it up for me really hard.
I don't get it. Why?
Because they meant so like like I said before, they worship a singular god. They refuse to accept the existence of, or they refuse to accept other gods. So like they are essentially anti other gods, but they're going into consensual contracts with said gods as a part of their organization. That's like a Christian church actively indulging in devil worship. It just feels like...
Okay. Maybe I could be wrong, but the way I'm seeing it is that they're not going into contracts with other gods. They're only going into contract with their god.
But we see multiple Nox users using other gods though. So we saw Kraken, we saw like the teddy bear girl, we saw like the wing dude who was fighting Q, we saw the centipede guy, we saw a clone dude.
Are those gods though? I feel like those are just like the way I mean, this whole conversation is happening because Cheryuk still hasn't been explained at all. Like it's so unclear. But the way I see it is like the specific god you worship is like chakra, I guess, right? So they have access to that god, that the people in Nox. But then you can make different things from that. So like maybe someone makes like the centipede or whatever, someone makes the kraken. That's what I'm thinking, but I really don't know.
No, I'm interpreting as like everyone has like when you use Cheryuk, you make a contract with a specific god, and then when you use those powers, an image of that god or deity appears. So like every single time like a Cheryuk user from Nox like calls out Kraken or etc or centipede, they're literally calling out and borrowing that power from that specific god who isn't their centralized monotheistic god.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure, but if that's the case, then yeah, you're right. It makes no sense at all for them to be like anti other gods.
Is it sad that
when they're
Is it sad that Nin makes way more sense? Like in Hunter x Hunter, Nin is like exponentially more complex and in depth than Cheryuk is. But for some reason, I understand Nin way easier than I understand Cheryuk in this anime.
Yeah, I mean, that's because it's very clear why. It's because Nen actually took specific time out to literally lay it all down, whereas with this, they haven't, like, at all. At least not in the anime.
And I understand that, so like, a real easy, like, counter-argument is they explained it in the manga, they did X in the manga, not manga, webtoon, they did Y in the webtoon, but like I said before, we're not like reviewing the webtoon, we are reviewing the specific adaptation of God of High School, and the adaptation does an awful job of explaining what the heck the power system is. And that goes back into like this feeling like a complete, like this episode feeling like 5 different animes, because you have like 1 second you have very technical straight up martial arts, then in a second you have like people throwing out Hadoukens and Flame Blast. And then the next second, you have, like, giant magical buster swords falling from the sky. And the other one, you have, like, crazy medieval cultists fighting dudes in suits, like, teamed up with, like, scythe-wielding jesters and freaking dragons.
Yeah. It's very weird. And what are we? Well, this is episode 10, right? And there's 13 episodes in this season. If we get to the end of the season without legitimately learning what Cherryuk is, then that'll just be really sad, like, because it makes no sense right now. It really doesn't.
No, well, like, we already found out what Cherryuk was. You know, that lost episode that didn't get released and feels like got
that
edited out.
Yeah. That's true. Forgot about that.
I feel like this is like a reverse Mandela effect where something did happen, but just no one in reality is aware that it happened.
or like literally everyone except for us. Like everyone's like, people are listening to this review thinking like, what are you talking about? Everyone, like the showmakers, like everyone's just aware of what it is except for us.
Also, I'm also kind of noticing this episode that the show has an issue with motivation for some characters. So, a couple of things. We get, like, info on Ippo Park's backstory. About how, I'm assuming his sister/cousin got violently injured and was unable to fight by the shark dude. And I had 2 issues with that backstory. First one, I think is a very strong backstory and is a very good, like, motivator. But what if instead of, like, him getting his Cherryuk at the very end of the fight, what if we saw how he got his Cherryuk in that flashback? So he goes to, like, beat up Shark Dude, sorry I can't remember his name right now, and he's on the ground, he's punching him, he smirks, and then all of a sudden, boom, the shark appears. He gets ripped up. He gets his ass completely wrecked. And the last very second before he gets killed by him, he summons his Cherryuk. He pushes him back, and Shark Dude's like, "Ha! You're not bad. Tell you what. See me at this tournament. If you want revenge on your sister/cousin, we'll settle it there." And then that's where the flashback ends.
I feel like something... Yeah, go ahead.
My other issue with it is I did not like how at the end of that fight, of the first fight with Day, that they just completely negated that. Because you have this moment where he's like, don't worry, he's having this, don't worry, I'll sell it for you, I'll help Oni-chan, blah 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 blah. But then his sister/cousin/teammate comes up and it's like, no, you need to fight for your own reasons and yada yada. And then he just instantly switches, like, motivations again.
Yeah.
I feel like that entire cutscene would have been way better backstory for Day's opponent than him, because it pretty much just got, like, negated or resolved before the fight even started. I don't even think that issue lasted more than, like, 5 minutes present time.
Yeah, I feel like overall, it's actually really amazing how much they fit into this episode. Because, like, all of this stuff, so many aspects of this episode could have been a whole episode by itself. Even the backstory for Ilpio, like, you're right, they should have done something like that where he develops... By the way, did we see him using Cherryuk in this fight that he had with Mori?
So, this is going... I'm assuming, based on the information in this episode, no. And that kind of dives into a huge issue of Cherryuk. Because we see non-Cherryuk users like Jin, Day, and Ippo doing crazy, like, fire-bending, light-bending, and summoning dragons and stuff. So what's the point of Cherryuk? If normal people can do this, like, superhuman shit, like, why do we have this as an, like, concept at all?
Yeah. I feel like... Mm-hmm. I feel like Cherryuk is... You get the idea that it's stronger, right? You get the idea that if, like, if Mori went up against someone with Cheryuk, even with his like blue dragon click or whatever kick, you get the feeling that no matter what he would lose just because Cheryuk is supposed to be stronger. But like you don't understand why. You just know it is because that's how they say it is, you know?
No, we are shown he's able to like level Cheryuk users. We
Oh wait,
like,
when?
Remember the last episode?
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It makes no sense.
Yeah, he literally dropped like 2 Cheryuk users in like he dropped a super powerful Cheryuk user, ran all the way back to the stadium, and then dropped another Cheryuk user.
Yeah, that's true. It makes 0 sense at all. Like,
and I will say this: like, I really enjoy the pacing of God of High School. Like, they cram so much stuff, and outside of this one instance, it never feels super rushed to me. It just drives me crazy because there are so many scenes they could have just cut out and replaced it with an explanation of their goddamn power system.
It's funny because when I was watching this, like, I couldn't tell if I didn't like if I didn't like the fact that they kept cutting back and forth between Mori versus Ilpio and then Nox versus the the God of High School group. But like it didn't matter because at the end of the day I was still just trying to figure out what what Cheryuk is, you know? Like it's just so distracting. I can't even like figure out if I like the episode or not because it just gets in the way, you know?
Yeah.
If you're right, like if they just spent a little while explaining what it is, it would be so much better. I also feel like go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say I also feel like the way they build things up it's not good. Like it's I think it's just it feels very rushed, especially this episode because they had this epic moment at the end like where everything was coming to like a climax. Like we didn't even talk about like the dancing music drum guy yet, but there was him and there was him and then there's the Mori versus Ilpio and then there's the other stuff going down on the ground. It's like all that stuff and the music was epic and the animation was out of this world, like and you can tell that if this was like another series where if this had gotten a proper build up, it would be like episode of like the season, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just there's no weight to any of it. It feels cool, but it's not actually because you don't even though we have Mori's backstory and we have Ilpio's backstory, it still doesn't feel that heavy, right? And then you have Nox, which we barely know anything about them except for what their goal is. And then we have the God of High School administrators who are fighting Nox, but like we don't really know, like it doesn't fit, you know, like the way that moment is directed doesn't fit the actual story. Like it's not actually that there isn't actually that much like suspense, you know. It really is just like fight scenes montaged together in a cool way, you know.
Yep. And let's talk about the dancing guy. So, you remember how I was saying how, like, they did a really good job of, like, setting up, like, national treasures and stuff in the last episode?
Yeah.
That's out the window! And the key reason for that is... Okay. If you want to have, like, these crazy sets of, like, magical weapons that are, like, super legendary... Don't have a drunken guy show up with a whole crapload of them in a freaking recycling bin. And then, like, throwing them out like they're singles in a strip club Friday night. Because as soon as I saw, like, him just throwing out hundreds of them out of nowhere, I know it was supposed to like show like, oh man, he's so strong. He can like control 100 mystical arm national treasures. But like in reality, it was like, damn, these things are so pointless that a drunken dude can just toss them out like they were nothing. Huh?
You know what it is? It feels like the show is actively trying to like troll you because at every single point where it makes something something is made out to be a big deal, it just automatically just like undercuts that right away. Like for example, what's her name? Mira's sword, right? That was supposed to be a big deal, and then the guy steals it and it's like no big deal. And then there's Cheryuk, which is hyped up, but like you said, Mori one-shot someone pretty much, right, without using it. And then you have the national treasure, which is supposed to be a national treasure. And like you said, some guy shows up and just like starts chucking them like it's no big deal. I mean, it was kind of a big deal because he was using them for like, obviously he was fighting something strong, but like the way he was using them, you wouldn't think it is. Like he pulls out a light machine gun and just starts shooting at it. Like it looks like, cool, but it's just like it's not cohesive.
Like imagine if in Naruto, as soon as like we learn what a Jinchuriki is, we just have a whole army of them charging out like next episode to fight some random final boss.
It's like we go from that one episode, like finding out about the QB one episode, to the next episode. You know how like at the end of Naruto Shippuden, like in the later episodes, they had like that song that they played as an ending song where it's like all the chibi foxes or whatever, and then with Naruto singing along, like holding hands in a circle singing the song. Like that's literally what it is, like a transition like that in like one episode. Yeah.
Also, I thought of a really huge question about the world building. So this show, whether directly or indirectly, established that Cheryuk is a normal thing in this world. Like, you have giants like alligators, sharks, demons appearing, and if the crowd's reaction in any of these fights is to be believed, that's just normal martial arts.
Yeah, because they're just quiet.
When you have this huge armed terrorist group of Cheryuk users rampaging in the streets, where are the cops? Do cops in this world have Cheryuk? If, like, random 40-year-old dropouts can achieve it, like, why can't armed servicemen achieve it? Why are there only, like, 2 Nox members fighting off against this army of two commissioners fighting off against this army of fully armed, like, Nox grunts? If they have, like, the infrastructure to, like, completely evacuate the city, why didn't they evacuate the freaking stadium that the freaking sword's coming down on?
Wait, did they evacuate the city? I think I missed that.
Nope, they never evacuated that stadium. That giant sword was like
coming... I'm talking about the city. The city.
It was completely abandoned, so I'm assuming it was evacuated.
Oh, I doubt it. I feel like it's just like one of those things where you're supposed to forget that civilians exist. which I don't. To me, that's like a small thing. Like I don't worry about that because there's so many series where it's just like it's not the main point, right? It's not the main point. The question though is how common is Cheryuk? Because if it's something that like you have to train to get, then I can understand the way it's been played out. How like people like, you know, there aren't any police officers who can use it, and it's not like they're attacking civilians. But if it's something that anyone can have, then there really should be a system that's more like you know, like the system in My Hero Academia, for example. You know, where they have like cops, and then they also have people who are specifically trained to counter that. I feel like it's the first one. You know, I feel like it's something. Is there anyone who has it? Have we seen anyone in the series who has it, who just like, who isn't part of that world, like the fighting world?
Nope, but the issue with that is they established that it happens at random. So, like, people can just get lucky And I'm assuming that if you are a fighter or a physical, like, your lifestyle involves heavy physical activity, you can unlock Cheryuk based on the information given in the show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's yet another thing that doesn't really make much sense. Another thing, too, just going off what you said about the audience, that really is funny because, like, don't you think this series would benefit a lot from, like, having the typical, like, audience commentating on the fight as it happens?
Yes.
I feel like that would, or not even audience necessarily, but, like, anyone else who's watching the fight, because I feel like that would go a long way towards building up hype, because it's like you can tell if when a character is doing something that's like a big deal. For example, like I keep going back to this example even though I've forgotten it, but when Mori beat the other dude without using Cheryuk, like that's a perfect moment right there where you could have someone like watching and being like, oh my god, like he doesn't even have because even doing that little amount, like saying like, wow, he doesn't even have Cheryuk and he's beating him, even doing that little amount does a lot to still give Cheryuk credibility. Like it's like, oh, he's special because he beat him even though he doesn't have it. But like when it's just happens like that and nothing is said about it, it's just like, oh, okay, so it makes people wonder, like you're wondering, like, okay, so then what's the point of even having it? Like, is it even a big deal?
I'm wondering, like, how does anime budgeting work? Because I feel like with this show, you could have easily, like, shonenified it and just had, like, instead of just having 13 episodes, you have, like, 26 episodes, and, like, you just pad it out with just, like, those static shots of, like, the characters sitting in one place with lip flaps just exclaiming and reacting to the action. Cause think about it, like, that's cheap like, that animation would be cheap to do, it builds out the world more, and you have more, like, marketing material, more product to sell. So I'm wondering if it's, like, how the budget's working for this. Because it feels like they're trying to get this show done really fast, like, as fast as possible.
I feel like it would have probably still cost more. Like, I feel like it's just more the number of episodes and less the actual quality of the episodes when it comes to anime. But it's very, I feel like if I had to guess, and also like I said, I still don't know. I've only read half of the first chapter of the webtoon. If I had to guess, I feel like it was a situation where they were like, the beginning is not that interesting, because you see that done a lot in anime where like if they're adapting something and the beginning isn't like a super hook, right? Or they don't think it's a super hook, they'll change things up at the beginning, but overall on the long run they'll like stick with the story. And maybe that's what they did here, but it seems like they just changed everything up. Like I said, I don't know past the first chapter, but like the way things are not making sense, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because like the issue with that is you need if you don't have a solid foundation, then like it doesn't matter how cool the future stuff is, it'll always be built on like a really flimsy ground, and you won't be able to like get fully immersed in it.
Yeah, like I said, like this whole episode I was just distracted by what they were actually doing, and I was able to enjoy the action, but it would have been way better if I actually understood everything going on behind it.
Totally.
Yeah. So, what did you think about the key, about Ilpio awakening the key, I guess?
Oh, wow, yeah, the key, that one legendary thing that does all the really cool legendary stuff that was just so well established and well explained and really well, like, imprinted on us as the viewer. That was like Illipo's transformation was totally something crazy new and something we haven't seen at all in this entire series. Oh my god.
I will say I'll say a couple good things about it. One is that was genuinely a plot twist. I did not see that coming. I've seen a lot of things
Yes.
coming, but not that. Two, yeah, I guess this isn't a good thing. I wish they would, I wish we would have even just a little bit of an idea of what the key was.
Right.
Just like even a little idea. Because if you're just giving us, I don't know, like maybe 2-3 sentences on a previous episode where we first learned about the key, explaining like just a little more about what it was, that moment at the end of the episode would be so much more hyped. Like, setting up expectations, I'm learning watching this show, is so important, because you could have all this hype action and hype moments placed in the right place and hype music and all that. But if the expectations aren't set up in the right way, then it falls flat,
I would like on top of that, if they I feel like that moment would have been a lot more hyped if they never mentioned the key at the end. It was just like, because if that was the case, I would have just been like, oh man, he's using his new power. Things are getting even more hype. Now it's just like, wait, what's the key? Like, is that a thing? Do I need to Google that?
Yeah.
The other thing is, this is gonna sound really weird, but if they just, instead of calling it key, just called it the MacGuffin, I would have honestly had way more enthusiasm for the scene, because A, I automatically know what MacGuffin is, and B, knowing that Ilipo is said MacGuffin does cause hype, because like I said, as soon as you call it a MacGuffin, everyone knows what it is, everyone knows what it does, and you also have the whole comedic meta aspect of, okay, even the writers know that this stuff is just a MacGuffin.
Yeah. But I will say again though, that really is a good plot twist. I really did not see that coming. I was pretty certain that the key, like the person with the key, would be Mori. But now I'm wondering, like, if the whole point of the tournament is to like find the person with the key. At that point, now that they found it, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, are they just gonna, I mean, they probably won't shut it down, but like, why would they care anymore now that they have, now that they have Ilpio?
The other issue with that is, A, we haven't even spent that much time with Ilipo. If he was like there at the very beginning and we were constantly going through this story with him, then that twist would have a lot more impact.
Yeah. And I feel like that's just another result of just things not being fleshed out that well.
The other thing is, if the commissioners didn't say he was the key, would you be able to tell that?
No.
For example, Dragon Ball Z. You don't need, background of what a Super Saiyan is to know that when Goku turns Super Saiyan, it's a hype moment. Naruto, as soon as he starts glowing red and, crazy tails kick up, you know that this is a big moment, shit's going down. But, again, with this, he's using Cheryuk. The only difference is he got a new haircut. And he has fox ears. Which, again, isn't really that impressive because Mira did the same exact stuff last episode. So...
Yeah, I agree with that.
I feel like overall, if this show had, twice as many episodes... If this section of story had twice as many episodes and more fleshing out, this show would have been amazing. Imagine if, they took the same amount of time, shows like Hunter x Hunter and Naruto take to sort of, establish their worlds, and then drop the cool characters, the awesome fighting, and the great visuals on top of that. This show would have been so awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not over, but it's getting pretty late. It's episode 10. It's way too far into the first season to not know the answer to a lot of these questions.
Like, for me, the only way for, like, the show to really redeem itself would be in the next episode, it pulls the Hunter x Hunter where we're in a completely different location and we're dealing with, like, new characters and we get a full-on explanation of everything. And it was just like, okay, this is the real first arc. Everything else up to that was just, like, the most hype as hell teaser arc you have ever seen in your entire life.
That would actually be nice. Yeah, I think overall, this tournament is just, it's been rushed so hard. And it makes me wonder where the series is going because I'm pretty sure the anime hasn't even put a dent in how much content there is for the webtoon. So it really makes me wonder where's the series going? Yeah, because, well, the webtoon has been going for like, must be at least 10 years now. So the anime is like, I'm sure, unless they're speeding through it like Tokyo Ghoul level speeding through it, unless they're doing that, but I doubt it. And it makes me wonder, like, where is the series going? Because I always knew that the series was probably greater than just the God of High School tournament, but I didn't expect it to like get to that till later on. Definitely not within the first season, but it seems like it's going to happen soon. Like, we already have the key. Nox is attacking the stadium. I'm starting to doubt there will even be another fight in the tournament. This might be like the end of the tournament, actually.
Like, it feels like Nox, the way it's set up now, is like Nox feels definitely feels like a villain of the arc, not a villain of a series.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but you're probably right though, because I don't know. I was gonna say there's not enough mystery around them, but there's still a lot of mystery, but like they're just too active, I guess, this early on. There's just, in general, there's just too many enemies. Like, we still have Tarek, right? I guess this won't be the last because Tarek still has to get fought. So there's Tarek, and then there's the guy who tried to marry Mira. Yep. And then there's Nox. And then there's all the people within Nox. It's so many people. Like, there's a lot going on. But yeah, so do you have anything else you want to say about the episode?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, cool. So, yeah, thank you for watching. This has been our review. Oh, I forgot. Okay, before I give you my rating, let me just say that pretty much at this point, the animation is what is keeping the show afloat for me, like keeping it worth watching. And yeah, so I give it a 7.
Same. My first gut reaction is to give it a 7, but I think if I'm being like hyper critical, I would have to give it a 6.
Okay. That's understandable. I'm giving it a 7 just because despite all the plot issues, the fighting was still able to get me like kind of hype, you know. I just know it could have been way better. That's the thing. It could have been way better without having to put in any extra effort in the actual fight. If the plot had just been laid out better, it would have hit way harder. But yeah,
like if this was like generic base level shonen action animation, so like early Dragon Ball Z where they're just doing that same crazy punch loop, I legit think this episode would probably be a 3 or maybe a 4.
Yeah,
and that's me definitely being hypercritical.
If the show, I don't want to say that. Well, I think I can say that actually. If the animation and action and all that wasn't so good, I probably would have dropped the show by now.
Oh yeah,
I probably would have. It's hard to tell at what point I would have lost my patience with like not knowing enough about Cherryuk, but I feel like definitely by episode 10, I feel like I would have, especially after this episode, I probably would have lost my patience. But we'll
I
see. Hopefully it
yeah.
gets better. I don't know.
Like for me, I think I probably would have lost my patience honestly. Like before the second round of the tournament, like after that second, like as soon as second round of the tournament, that's probably when I would have lost my patience honestly.
Yeah. Can you believe I said this was the next Bleach? Actually, to be fair, the webtoon could very well still be the next Bleach, but the anime, not so much. Unless, like you said, unless they really turn it around in the last 3 episodes, unless something crazy happens. Well, and that crazy thing being that they actually explain stuff. It's funny how for this show to be like, for most shows, for them to go the next level, you need to have like a super great fight scene and just like amazing art and all that. For this show to go to the next level, they just need to take like 10 minutes to just explain a little bit of exposition.
You know, it's funny. Like, I would rank like I'm almost tempted to say like this is the next. This I was thinking this was going to be the next Sword Art Online, but I think that's a little mean because, and before I say this, I absolutely think that the writer of Sword Art, the original writer of Sword Art Online, has definitely grown a lot as a writer, and he actually wrote one of my favorite animes, like Cell World. But unlike God, like the writing for God of High School it's not bad. It's just poorly edited. Like I said, it's not bad and it's not stupid. It's just poorly edited. It feels like there's good writing, but it was just stitched together poorly in this.
Yeah.
With Sword Art Online, I would just say like the writing is just straight vapid at best, terrible at worst.
You know what's funny though? Right now at this point, if you ask me today, right? If I had to choose between only knowing Sword Art Online or only knowing God of High School, and this is just based off the anime, I would pick Sword Art Online because I actually enjoyed myself more. As even like in the first half of Sword Art Online, especially, I enjoyed myself more than this. Like, you know, and the animation in Sword Art Online actually wasn't even that bad. You know, like when they got serious, they got pretty serious. So I would.
No, if I good.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm done.
Like, if I could only have watched one of them, I would take God of High School every single day of the week over Sword Art Online. At least the first season. Like,
I feel like as time goes on, I start to like lose my anger towards Sword Art Online. Like, I feel like I actually appreciate it now.
No, because that's the thing I always say, like, at the end of God of High School, I know why I watched it, and I know why and how I got to the end of it. I cannot answer that question. I cannot say that about Sword Art Online. To this day, I have no idea why I finished that series.
What I'll say is, when I was watching Sword Art Online, what I will say for that, which I can't actually say for God of High School, is that I didn't have any problem clicking on the next episode, at least up to a certain point, at least until it got like halfway through the season. But like before that, I was just binging it pretty much, right? God of High School, I would have a harder time. I would have a harder time doing that just because, you know, I get really annoyed when I can't understand what's going on. Like, you know,
it's like I said, like Sword Art Online has very weak writing that was stitched together or executed well. God of High School has great writing that was executed poorly.
Yeah. I feel like I have to go back and rewatch SAO to see how I feel about the writing nowadays, but I definitely agree about what you said for God of High School because the characters are good. The story, not the story, the setting has potential. The action is good. The hook is good. God of High School tournament. But yeah, the execution is just, for the anime, it's not working.
Yeah. Alright, well, those have been our thoughts. Tune in next time for when we review the next episode, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.